Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're continuing our tour of the Master League, as today we're taking a look at a trainer who is running a pretty fun anti-meta Pokemon specifically designed to counter Zacian Crown Form. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Zach Attack, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now the Pokemon that Zach is using to counter Zacian is level 50 Legacy Thundurus THERIAN. As with its electric and flying typing, it is a complete wall to the steel fighting coverage of Zacian. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Thundurus in action in the Master League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a great lead, Zamazenta into Palkia. Opponent switches out instantly into Lunala, and this is where we learn that Zach has made an interesting choice with his Zamazenta. He has opted for Metal Claw for pacing over the more traditional Ice Fang. Ice Fang obviously is slower to get to the charge moves, but it does give a lot better fast move pressure in matchups like going up against Palkia. Either way, Zamazenta more than happy to absorb a Shadow Ball, grab a shield from the opponent, and now switch into the Lunala mirror. Lunala will go for the one shield farm down, but the opponent says no, they're going to pivot out into Palkia. Palkia farms up, they do not build up to the Spatial Rend. That means that Lunala does not have to respect this move whatsoever. Very nice overfarm by the Lunala, trying to get as much energy as possible without reaching cap, and Moonblast connects through the shield and picks up the KO. In the back is Ho-Oh, and it's time for Thundurus to shine. Thundurus will get to the Wild Bolt Storm. This would inflict massive super effective damage and apply an attack drop as well. Ho-Oh will undertap as they return fire with the Secret Fire, but still with the shield to hide behind is the Thundurus. There's the switch into Lunala. Thundurus not taking any chances. If Lunala can't make a move, then this game is a guaranteed win because Zach's Lunala has a move banked. Ho-Oh cannot even get the farm down. A Wild Bolt Storm would have been reached, so Ho-Oh forced to throw energy, and now Lunala is on cleanup duty. Shadow Ball KOs the Ho-Oh to secure the Game 1 win. We move to game number 2, picking up a negative lead, Zamazenta into Zacian. Quick save switch into Lunala, and Lunala has such a comfortable matchup into Zacian, as Zacian it's a pacing war that it cannot possibly win. They're able to grab a shield with Behemoth Blade, but they're always going to be behind. So in the 2 shield, you're very comfortable to play it out as Lunala. Opponent is going to make a nice catch, saving the Zacian and catching onto Palkia. Palkia still takes quite a bit of damage from the Shadow Ball. Lunala can't quite switch out. The switch timer was very close to being up. Aqua Tail does not KO, but unfortunately the Dragon Breaths after will pick up the knockout. But honestly, that may be preferred when you consider how much farm Zamazenta is about to get. This energy is going to be super threatening into the Zacian. Aqua Tail lands, that's never going to do a ton of damage. In the back is Urshifu, and oh man, it's time for Thundurus to shine. Thundurus is going to be putting up the shield, as even though it's resisted, Behemoth Blade is a devastatingly effective move. But now they're going to get debuffed by the Wild Bolt Storm if they decide to shield, and they will shield. Opponent tries to CMP-tie the Thundurus, but Thundurus is not going to fall for it. The Volt Switch goes through as they go for the Behemoth Blade. Thundurus gets the full farm down, and it's all over. We're going to see a Thundurus endgame sweep. Wild Bolt Storm, big damage onto Urshifu. There's Wild Bolt Storm number 2. The 2 close combats on Zamazenta not even needed, as Thundurus THERIAN takes home the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Zamazenta once again greeted by Palkia. This Palkia is choosing to stay in this matchup, so it appears there's something in the back that isn't a big fan of Zamazenta either. Zamazenta will strike first with the close combat. Obviously this will not be enough to KO, saving the close combat for later and sending in Lunala. Lunala can survive any one move, but Zach makes the decision to invest in the HP of Lunala, and that decision pays off handsomely as in comes Zacian. Zacian, not a big fan of being down energy to Lunala, as Lunala is able to land big damage and now will be able to get the shield back. This Shadow Ball shielded up, opponent will look to overfarm. Switch Clock was up, but unfortunately didn't quite get the prediction right to make a catch back onto the Zamazenta. This could set up an opportunity for Thundurus to hit the field, and there it is. Thundurus going to be no shielding as it does resist everything. Zacian goes for the close combat. In the back is Rhyperior, the quick switch to Zamazenta, and now we know why they felt like they couldn't switch out, because Rhyperior also has a bad matchup here. Behemoth Bash does get shielded. Rhyperior, everything they throw is going to be double resisted. Zamazenta with the no shield, they go for the breaking swipe. They do not get the catch, and that means Behemoth Bash is going to land, and that's a big problem as Rhyperior is now deep into the red. Palkia makes a last-second charge attack, and oh my goodness, this may be time for Focus Blast from Thundurus. In comes Rhyperior, the Mud Slap goes through, and I believe Thundurus now has the Focus Blast. There we go, this is about to be massive overkill. Focus Blast into the 1 HP Rhyperior. You absolutely love to see it, and that's a good game. Good lead in the next match, leading Zamazenta into Shadow Rhyperior. Obviously, the Mud Slaps will inflict some pretty significant damage, but if you want to see Rhyperior anywhere on this team, it's definitely going to be on Zama. Rhyperior will throw energy. Zamazenta always going to be happy to no shield. Rhyperior fishing for a debuff that they do not get. And I really dislike the opponent's decision to go for the double breaking swipe here, because not only did they not really achieve anything in terms of getting the Zamazenta lower, but Zamazenta is still going to force both shields. So if Zamazenta was going to force both shields, the battler would have been significantly better off not throwing those breaking swipes and instead just looking to exit the matchup with 100 energy to try and get the shields back. Whereas now, Lunala is just going to get the full farm down. This is only a breaking swipe. They were unable to get a second Rock Wrecker. They do get a debuff, but Lunala has 100 energy, which is always an incredibly terrifying spot to be in. This is a debuff Shadow Ball, but will still add up onto the Zacian, banking the Shadow Ball for later. In comes Thundurus. Thundurus immediately met with a charge attack from the Zacian. Zacian goes for the Behemoth Blade. We're now going to see the switch out into Palkia. Palkia way behind on energy, so it will immediately get debuffed with Wild Bolt Storm. Thundurus going to try and get to a second Wild Bolt Storm and does get there. This Wild Bolt I don't think will quite knock out, but it will get Palkia deep into the red health. Palkia tries for the Spatial Rend. They do not get there, and the opponent is going to concede the match. Zamazenta once again leading into Palkia. Palkia farms up a little bit. They save switch into Landorus. And unfortunately, the lack of Ice Fang, a bit unfortunate. It's normally Zamazenta can just stay in and dominate against Landorus, but instead force the switch out and bring in Lunala. Lunala, debuffed Shadow Ball, not going to be able to pick up the knockout onto Landorus. Landorus, will they try for the Stone Edge here? It does do more damage. They do go for the Stone Edge, but it's still not enough. Palkia snipes down Lunala, but the damage has been done. Switch advantage has been maintained, and that's going to be what wins this game for Zach, because now he has Thundurus into Ho-Oh. Thundurus just gets to debuff these Incinerates more and more and more. Opponent just under-tapping, trying for a Sacred Fire debuff. They do get the Sacred Fire debuff, but even that is not going to be enough to save the opponent because they're just running out of shields. They're double debuffs. They have no ability to farm down. Thundurus will put up the final shield as they go for the Brave Bird. There's the switch to Palkia, and Palkia will be met with the Zamazenta. Zamazenta at the back-to-back close combats. Close combat number 1 not going to be enough to knock out, but Zamazenta will get close combat number 2 on the charge attack priority tie. Palkia does get to land the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does put quite a dent into the health bar of the Zamazenta, and now it's time for Ho-Oh to get some farm. Ho-Oh does exit with energy, but not enough. Thundurus had the Wild Bolt Storm banked, knocking out the Ho-Oh, and man, Thundurus is putting in some work in these endgames. We've got a very neutral lead, Zamazenta into Lunala. Typically, anytime it's a type neutral matchup, it's probably going to favor Lunala, as Lunala just offers great consistency with Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball. Lunala goes for the Shadow Ball, Zamazenta with the no shield, and returning fire with the Behemoth Bash. Behemoth Bash not a particularly threatening attack, but a second Behemoth Bash does prove problematic. The opponent, if they want this energy, they have to shield, and they do. There's a quick switch into Lunala. The Shadow Claw goes through as the opponent will get the shield back, save their Lunala with a quick pivot out into the Palkia. Palkia down on energy, and that is a death wish in this matchup. Lunala Moonblast does get the shield. I believe that got the attack drop as well. That's so unfortunate. Lunala here with a bit of a miscue, had the Moonblast, but instead firing off the Shadow Ball. The Shadow Ball does leave the Palkia at 1 HP, so Palkia will get a Spatial Rend. Spatial Rend does not knock out, and in the back, oh boy, it's time. It's Zacian, and Zacian will just be fully walled off by the Thundurus. Thundurus will put up the shield. Will Thundurus opt for the double Wild Bolt Storm or instead look to try and land the Focus Blast? Zacian, oh, the double Wild Bolt Storm, but the opponent makes a very nice catch as they're able to catch that onto the low health Lunala. But back in comes the Zacian just to get immediately debuffed by another Wild Bolt Storm, and now there's just no hope for the opponent. Quick switch into the Zamazenta, the catch adding insult to injury. Say it ain't so. Catching the Behemoth Blade, opponent undercharges just to get Metal Claw down, and that's a good game. We've got the Battle of Zamazenta in the next match. Opponent is also on Metal Claw. So no Ice Fang to speak of here. It means these Zamazenta are going to have identical pacing. Oh my goodness, is this the triple resistant close combat catch? It is, what a play. And now out comes Kiram. Kiram throws a charge move, and that is a massive misplay from the opponent. Typically, Kiram can just go for a one shield farm down and exit basically at 100 energy. But instead they throw the fusion bolt, it does not knock out, and now they exit down a shield and with no energy. Back in comes Zamazenta, and it just has all that energy stored up. Zamazenta will go for the Behemoth Bash. That's going to connect, and the Metal Claw farm down means the opponent is unable to make it to a second fusion bolt. Back in comes Zamazenta, immediately under pressure from the close combat. There's a switch into Thundurus, and it's going to be Dawn Wings in the back. Dawn Wings, a terror in neutral scenarios, but with Wild Bolt Storm slowing the roll of this Dawn Wings, suddenly this matchup doesn't feel as scary. The opponent only built up to a Dark Pulse here. Oh, they're actually on Iron Head as their bait move, and they will immediately resign the match, recognizing that the game is over. Picking up a slightly negative lead in the next match, Zamazenta into Kyogre. If Zamazenta wants to, it can stay in versus Kyogre, as the zeros will typically favor Zamazenta, but I honestly really like the idea to switch out into Lunala, and Lunala ends up being greeted with an Ice Fang Zamazenta. This is not an amazing counter to Lunala. The Ice Fangs will add up quite a bit over time, but Lunala just has a pacing advantage, and after landing a Shadow Ball, if it really wants to preserve HP, will have the ability to shield and fully farm down. Lunala thinking it through, get a no-shield Behemoth Bash is going to connect, and Lunala hangs on 1 HP. Great matchup knowledge, able to grab the final shield from Zamazenta. In comes Thundurus. Thundurus will get the farm down, but take quite a bit of damage from the Ice Fangs in the process. Opponent gonna send in Palkia. Thundurus farming up quite a bit of energy and immediately going to have to give up a shield, as Palkia will go for the Aqua Tail. Farming up, we're now gonna see a Focus Blast. Is this gonna be enough to just KO Palkia? Focus Blast is gonna land. Down goes Palkia. In comes Kyogre, but unfortunately Kyogre is able to get the farm down. Kyogre able to deny the Wild Bolt Storm, and this is going to be a very tricky game. Is Kyogre in close combat range? They go for the Origin Pulse. It does not KO. Does close combat knockout here? This game is down to the wire. Kyogre hangs on, and unfortunately that is a tragic defeat. We move to the next match, and it's a very familiar sight. Zamazenta once again staring down Palkia. Opponent banks a little bit of energy, save switches into Lunala. Lunala will get chipped with Behemoth Bash, and then in comes Lunala into the mirror for a one-shield farm down. Lunala will exit with quite a bit of energy, and obviously this energy can be very, very threatening into the Palkia, as Palkia really does not want to take a Moonblast, and it's guaranteed that Lunala can make it to 2. Lunala will opt for the bait, anticipating the opponent will put up the shield, and they do. Lunala cannot get there. They could have got it if the opponent tried to farm down, but the opponent realized this and instead went for the Aqua Tail. This is honestly preferred, because now the Palkia doesn't have a bunch of energy. Zamazenta can hit the field, and Zamazenta will just continue to try and Metal Claw it into a range where it can KO with the close combat. In the back is going to be Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh, I believe, just CMP tied there with the Thundurus. Thundurus Wild Bolt Storm will connect. That's big damage onto the Ho-Oh. And now Thundurus will put up the shield as it looks to farm down. Thundurus will exit with a Wild Bolt Storm, and that means this Palkia is going to be debuffed for the remainder of the game. Wild Bolt Storm does get the shield. Palkia going to try for a farm down just to get sniped down with the close combat. Close combat into the Palkia, picks up the knockout. That is a decisive win for Thundurus. Hopping into what I believe could be the final match here, leading Zamazenta into Giratina Origin. Obviously, Ice Fang would be preferred in this matchup, but Zamazenta will still put up a pretty decent fight. Giratina is going to switch out into Rhyperior. This could very well be the team that has Zacian in the back. This is a pretty common team. Lunala really likes being at a shield advantage against Rhyperior. Lunala putting up an early shield as Rhyperior will go for the Breaking Swipe bait. Breaking Swipe did get the debuff. That is unfortunate. The gamble to not throw the Shadow Ball right away from Lunala does unfortunately end up backfiring, as now Lunala will be hit with a Shadow Rock Wrecker. That's going to force the final shield. Rhyperior does get farmed down. Lunala exits with quite a bit of energy, and Giratina will hit the field. Giratina will take a lot of damage from the Shadow Ball. It is a -1 Shadow Ball, but it would still inflict some pretty serious damage. Opponent tries for the farm down. They fail the farm down. Shadow Ball lands. And now things are hopefully looking good for the Thundurus if it is going to be that Zacian team in the back. Shadow Ball lands. There's a switch to Thundurus. That's not a Zacian. It's a Palkia. Palkia farming up, but Thundurus gets to the Focus Blast. We know this will do a lot of damage. It picks up the KO. Down goes Palkia. Thundurus sweeps an endgame one final time. And that's a good game. All in all, I really like seeing people think outside the box when it comes to the Master League. And choosing an electric flying type like Thundurus THERIAN to counter Zacian is definitely one of the more creative solutions that I've seen for trying to deal with a Pokemon that is as strong as Zacian ground form. We saw a few months back when a trainer tried something similar with Xurkitree. Obviously, Xurkitree just doesn't have the bulk to hold up, so Xurkitree does actually get farmed down by Zacian, if I'm not mistaken. But Thundurus has a bit more bulk and has Wild Bolt Storm going for it as well. Thundurus THERIAN is by no means a meta pick. This is anti-meta spice territory, but it seems like it worked out very, very well for this trainer. They were able to get quite a few wins. Obviously, it had some very strong teammates as well. I think Zamazenta ground form is just unbelievably good. On the few Master League teams that have been running recently, Zamazenta is almost always on the team. I just find it really difficult to take Zamazenta off the team. I personally run Ice Fang, but I really love its matchup into the Shadow Rhyperior, as Rhyperior is always forced to go down 2 shields or end up throwing a bunch of double resisted energy. Add to that Lunala, which is basically a perfect core pairing with Zamazenta because there aren't really any ghost resists in this meta, and you end up having a team that honestly feels pretty flexible across the board. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.